Boys and girls, today I'm going to be reading 2 chapters from our book, Magic Treehouse High Tide in Hawaii. Where we left off yesterday, Annie and Boca and Kama were out in the ocean kind of floating on their surfboards, and Jack felt the earth sort of shake. So he looked it up in his research book, and he realized that might mean that a tsunami is on its way. And a tsunami is a giant wave. It used to be called a tidal wave. And what happens is when the earthquake shakes, it sets the wave in motion. And then as the wave comes towards shore, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then when it comes onto the land, it's so big that it wipes out everything in its path. So chapter 7 and 8 we'll be reading today. Chapter 7 is called Ride for Your Lives. So here we go. If you're following along, we are on page 51, chapter 7. Jack had to find out more about tsunamis quickly. He read as fast as he could. A tsunami can strike a few hours or a few minutes after an earthquake. It depends on the strength of the earthquake and where it took place. After earthquakes, it is safest for islanders to seek higher ground. We have to get to higher ground now, thought Jack, dropping the book. He ran down to the edge of the ocean. Boca, Kama, and Annie were still paddling out beyond the waves. Jack forgot all about their fight. "Hey, you guys!" he yelled. They didn't hear him. Jack went into the shallow water. "Hey, you guys!" he yelled. "Come back!" They still didn't hear him. Jack ran to his surfboard, grabbed it, and ran into the ocean. He fought the breaking waves. Once he was past them, he threw himself onto his board and he paddled wildly. The wave swells grew as he paddled. He could hardly see Annie, Boca, or Kama over them. Jack paddled faster and faster, trying to reach them. "Hey!" he yelled. "Hey!" Boca looked back at him. He gave Jack a friendly wave and then turned away again. "I have to get them to me. I have to get them to come to me," Jack thought frantically. "Help! Help!" he yelled at the top of his lungs. The 3 kids jerked around. They paddled quickly toward Jack with worried faces. "What's wrong?" Annie cried when they got closer. "Are you in trouble?" "We all are," said Jack. "A tsunami might be coming. There was an earthquake when I was on the beach. "We'd better ride in fast," said Boca. "Stay on your bellies," said Kama. "It's safer." "Here comes a wave!" cried Boca. They all started paddling. The swell of waves picked them up. They were all swept forward. They gripped the sides of the board as they zoomed along with the others. Suddenly, Jack dropped down as the wave curled under. It felt like a roller coaster, but he stayed on his board and the wave carried him to shore. Jack rolled off into the shallow water. He snatched up his board and ran onto the sand. Boca and Kama were waiting. "Good riding, Jack," said Boca. "Where's Annie?" asked Jack. Boca pointed. Annie was in the shallow water pulling her board in. As they watched, something very weird began to happen to the ocean. The water all around Annie started to pull away. Chapter 8, The Big Wave. "Run, Annie!" Jack screamed. The water drew away from the beach and loud hissing came from the ocean. Suddenly, fish flopped on bare sand. Annie threw down her board and ran. She grabbed Jack's hand as she ran by him. Jack grabbed Boca's hand and Boca grabbed Kama's hand. They all ran together, pulling each other along as they raced to the cliff. Boca and Kama ran up the cliff path. Jack and Annie grabbed their shoes and Jack's pack, and they scrambled up the path too. At the top of the cliff, everyone looked back. Jack couldn't believe his eyes. A wave was rising up like a dark mountain of water. It came surging toward the shore, growing taller and taller. You can see how little they are down here compared to that big, giant wave. "Oh, man. Wow," whispered Annie. "Get back!" shouted Boca. The 4 of them bolted back from the edge of the rocky slope. The mountain of water crashed against the cliff. Water sprayed over the tops of the rocks and it rained down on them. When the water rolled back over the cliff, they all hurried back to the edge to see what had happened. The rocky cliff path was gone. The gigantic wave was moving back out to sea, taking rocks, sand, seaweed, seashells, and surfboards with it. Scary, breathed Annie. Yeah, said Jack. We just made it. Boca, Kama! Voices yelled. They turned around. Jack saw Boca and Kama's parents racing across the meadow toward them. Other villagers followed. The two Hawaiian kids ran into their parents' arms. Soon Jack and Annie were surrounded by villagers. Everyone was laughing and crying and hugging each other. Jack hugged Annie. He hugged Kama and Boca and their parents, and lots of other people he didn't even know. We're going to stop there. Is that a good place to stop? All right, boys and girls, tomorrow we will read chapters 9 and 10, and we will finish book number 28, High Tide in Hawaii. I can't wait for you to see what happens. We'll see you soon. Bye. Grayson, say bye-bye. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, guys.